Another amazing episode. This time we got a special guest who's about to drop some gems and help y'all secure the bag. Make sure y'all join the conversation by going to the
m4show.com.
Yes, ma'am. And of course, make sure y'all follow us on Instagram at
the M4 Show.
Queen, should they like and subscribe or something?
Most definitely. You should definitely go do that like right now.
Yes, make sure y'all like and subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are listening to this episode. We appreciate you. It's free, so go ahead and do it. And it is your first move on being a millionaire. Now, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Let's introduce our guest for today. Today, we got the amazing, melanated, beautiful, and passionate couple, Lovey and Snooks, the host of the Married into Crazy podcast. We had them for episode 73, and it was a spicy one.
Spicy indeed.
It was spicy. We're not go back to the episode 73, Married into Crazy Part 1. We're not gonna ruin too much of the story for you, but just know it may or may not involve a knife. That's what we're gonna say. All right, go back
check
to
it
the
out,
episode.
y'all.
Check it out. In part 2, in today's episode, we really want to take a deeper dive into their journey as a couple, how they built their business together, why they decided to go into business together, and kind of some tips and tricks that they have for other married couples that are interested in building wealth together. But before we get into that, we appreciate y'all for tapping in. My name is Devon Travell, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game. Of course, I have my beautiful, my smiling, my fly hunting, my matcha queen drinking. Please introduce yourself.
What is up, everybody? My name is Sinclair, a.k.a. the health nerd, and I hate flies. And I love matcha.
Yes, you do.
Those are 2 things you should know about me.
There it is. Fun facts for you. Before we get into the episode, as y'all know, the queen hits us with some knowledge, with some game, with some gems every single episode. This is called the Did You Know segment. Queen, hit them with the Did You Know?
Did you know that taking a couple of deep breaths before you eat a meal can not only help you feel less stress, but also help your body digest the food that you're eating? So stress, it's ever present, right? And for most of us, we probably spend most of our time in that fight or flight response, which means we're stressed out. We got to be intentional about putting ourselves in that rest and digest mode. And I do call it that on purpose, because that is where our food is digested. That is where our immune system is fortified. That is where our hormones can be replenished. It's all during that rest and digest mode. So if you've ever eaten something and you get that indigestion, you get some burping, you get some gas bubbling, the bubble guts, as I like to call them, the bubble guts. Part of that could be that you are eating in a stressed state. So there are studies that show that diaphragmatic breathing through your abdomen.
What kind of breathing?
Don't test me. I don't know that that's the exact way to say it. Diaphragmatic, I think, breathing, which means breathing through your abdominal, can help lower your cortisol levels and put you in that rest and digest mode. Because fun fact, one of the things that suppresses stomach acid is, guess what?
Oxygen?
Stress.
Oh.
Come on, follow me here. Is stress. Stress actually inhibits your body's ability to produce stomach acid, which helps digest your food. So the next time, whether it's in prayer or whether it's just taking a couple of deep breaths before you eat your meal, can help you digest it better.
Boom, there it is. Some more wisdom, some more gems for y'all. Something new that we're trying out in the M4 show is we are sponsoring and promoting small businesses, especially during August, which is National Black Business Awareness Month.
We always do that like we don't have a roadcaster right here.
Which is which?
No,
that's not it.
It's the yellow one. That's the
There we go. But this week, shout out to Eva out of Fontana, California, the founder and owner of Bliss Catering. So speaking of, taking a deep breath before you get some food, if you have a birthday in mind, you have an anniversary, if you just have a celebration, you need some food and you're in the IE, we're talking about some filet mignon steak.
Okay.
We're talking about some chicken tacos. We're talking about some Hennessy cake. You know,
speaking my language.
That's your language. The Hennessy cake is
Hennessy
really what.
cake. Wait a
did it
minute
for you.
here.
Look, if you're interested in getting yourself some food, some catering, and you're in the IE, make sure you go to Instagram and you check out Bliss Catering. That's BLISS Catering on social media, and you can get 10% off of your next order if you use the code the M4 Show. That's right, y'all.
What?
Breathe before you eat and put in the code. We're not only saving your metabolism, we're also saving your wallet. The M4 Show got your back. Make sure you go check them out.
Full service over here.
That's what we do. That's what we do. And without further ado, continuing the service, we want to talk to y'all about marriage and balancing business. We want to bring in our guests. We're going to bring them together right after this. Queen, are you ready to get into the episode?
I'm ready.
All right.
Ready for this.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Cool. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. Over 50% of Black Americans are unmarried, and only 2% of Black families in America have a net worth over $1 million.
We are on our journey to not only join that 2%, but grow that 2%.
Facts. I'm Devon Travell, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game, with my beautiful co-host.
I'm Sinclair, aka the Health Nerd.
And welcome to the M4 Show. Oh, bring them out. There they go. How y'all living? We got Ernie, we got Rana, the host of the Married Into Crazy podcast. How y'all feeling?
Feeling great. Thank you. Thank you for having us back again.
Yeah, diaphragmatically speaking.
Did I say that correctly? Let's hope.
It sounded good to me. Look, we were over here breathing.
As soon as you said we both.
Oh, yes, I love it.
And then I really had to take another breath because I want some Hennessy and some cake. Hennessy cake.
Look, and that's the question I have. Does she use Hennessy in the cake? Is it like amaretto cake or rum cake?
You know, I'm not familiar. It looks like we're going to have to check this out. We're going to have to go to Bliss Catering, check it out. All I saw was for sure a cake with a bottle of Hennessy on the top.
Interesting.
Yeah, it gets real, y'all. It gets real. But it's been a minute since y'all have been back on the show. A lot of exciting things I think have been popping off on your side. I know for one, somebody did a TED Talk. I know y'all went to a Black podcast conference, and I'm sure some other stuff. So, you know, catch us up a little bit. What's been going on in the MIC world?
Yeah. So yes, I did do a TEDx talk for Johnson & Johnson, the largest healthcare company in the world, and it's something that's only distributed within their ecosystem. It's about 130,000 employees within the entire entity, but did a talk for them. There were 13 of us around the world that were selected, and that was a fun, stressful. I wish I would have known about the breathing.
Right.
It was fun. It was a good time. And then earlier this year, we went to Atlanta, to the Mecca land, to go.
Yeah.
We went to the
Black Podcast.
Black Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That was dope.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're upset we missed that. What we had? Oh, we had Markel's wedding. So I'm not upset, Markel. All love. It was a beautiful wedding, sir. But yeah, we had a wedding that I was like, oh, I double booked. Oh no,
in.
And I was a groomsman and everything, Ernie. I was But next year,
we were almost ready to book flights. Did we book flights? No, we didn't book flights.
We did. We booked flights and we had to cancel.
No, we didn't. We didn't book the flights, but we did buy the conference tickets.
That's what happened.
Which we did not get a refund for.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't.
I'm sure they appreciate it. It was for a good cause.
Right?
You
Nice
know.
little donation.
Support the culture.
Nope. How about on your side, Miss Rhonda, Miss Snooks?
Since our last time that we talked, I started my master's program. So
come on, slight flex. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, so on a daily, I'm trying not to take everybody's head off in the house.
Amen.
So
Amen.
Fight the good fight over there, sir. Fight the good fight.
Wow, they drive me crazy, but it's okay. It's all good,
Diaphragm.
Yeah. No. Well, now that thank you, Sinclair.
Mm-hmm.
Something else that she's gonna help me with. So yeah, that's all good.
Yep. So I want to kind of jump into it. This is a question that has been new to the rebranded podcast that I try to ask as many people as possible. And the question is, do you believe every what's funny, Queen?
I know the way it's coming. I like the way you
The
the
prep
way
up?
you answer it, the way you ask it is like you know that we disagree on this.
Yes, we do. We do disagree on this
Do
answer.
you
Do you believe that every family / couple should have a business? What is your y'all's take on it as individuals or as a couple?
That every family should have a business?
Yes.
No.
We got another one, folks. We got another one.
I don't. I mean, I think that because we share blood and we're family, that people think that we're supposed to do certain things.
Mhm.
And no, I just don't, because some just because I got your blood doesn't mean that you're a good partner for me, that we even like each other. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
no.
So,
No.
so I'm a yes and no. I don't believe that
It's
every
yes or no, baby. You can't do both.
Pick a
Gemini,
side.
I can be yes and no.
See, that's what I go through. Go ahead.
The Gemini answer is no, I do not believe that every couple should have a business together. But yes, I
It's
do.
a family, not just a couple.
Okay, well,
I'm sorry.
and no, but yes, I do believe that every couple or family should have a brand.
What's the difference? Educate folks. What's the difference between a business and a brand?
You can have a business that can be extremely generic. Just because you have a hamburger business or a restaurant business, there should be a brand. The brand speaks to what's unique about that individual. People should be able to see the brand and have an idea. It should make them, it should emote something, right? It should give them some kind of feeling. When I say that, for instance, when I talk about Married into Crazy, we want people to understand that when we talk Married into Crazy, that it stands for something. There's 5 pillars. But we want every family, when they hear about Declare, when they hear about, your family, they should know that you stand for something. Your brand should stand for something. And that's what I believe in. I believe that every family should have a brand that stands out, that enters the room before you do. But having a business together, that's a completely different thing.
Got you. I like the added value of the brand in there. That wasn't a part of the discussion before, but I like that every family should have a brand. People should know you for something. You should have your values that are put out into the world. I'll get that. Now, but both of y'all said no to the business, though. In my opinion, just speaking it, I think families should have a sustained way of creating wealth for themselves, whether that's for real estate, whether that's stocks, whether that is a fashion brand or a podcast show. As like, as families, we're constantly making economic decisions all the time, right? So why not just have a business together? That way we can take advantage of tax deductions together. We can take advantage of group economics together. That is my strong stance.
And I have initially was kind of strongly like, no, it's just not for everybody. But I think after we hashed it out on one of our episodes, I landed on, I don't know that every family or couple needs to start a business outside of their household. But I do believe that if you don't have a business, your household should be run like a business, if that makes sense. So like you have income coming in, you have expenses, you have goals, you have a 5-year plan, you have a way to pass that household wealth down to your kids, right? I do think that should be in place, even if it's just your household family expenses. I think it's important to like get folks involved, get your kids involved, right? And be able to have a systematic way to pass down wealth within your family. So in that sense, like your household almost should be a business. And I do think that every family should operate in that way. But yeah, I don't necessarily think that every family needs to go out and like start a podcast or run a restaurant or anything like that. But I do feel like even if you don't, that you can still run your run your family or run your household as a business.
I like that.
Yeah.
Like both of them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They both make sense,
Mhm.
actually, so good
So
job.
thank you. 5 points for Gryffindor over here. We'll take it. We'll take it. So y'all as a family and as a couple have decided to start a brand and a business. Can you kind of talk through your early mindset to why y'all wanted to kind of even go on this entrepreneurship journey together? And she looked right at you. She said,
I'm gonna be honest with you. Lovey is he's the guy that he's like, hey, let's do this, and we should do a business. He's very entrepreneurial and in his way of thinking. Me, I was more on the consumer side. He's like, no, we need to change that type of thinking. So it was really his idea more than mine, to make it an official type of business. We've always, as far as like with Married into Crazy, what we do coaching. It's always been more unofficial. We've, talked with couples throughout our marriage, and but he was just like, no, we know what we're doing. We finna do this, and do the podcast and blah blah blah. And I just was like, oh, okay. I ain't gonna say I was yipping and skipping to do it. And he's practically pulling me by my hair, almost caveman style to get it going. But
no spouses were harmed in the filming.
in the making of this brand.
I related to that very, very strongly.
But it was an evolution. Originally, it was about a podcast. We, like you said, unofficially, we've been coaching couples for a very long time. And then it was like, we met with ET in San Francisco and saw the group there, and not as a business meeting, but it was like as a conference. Mm-hmm. And we came out of that. I was like, let's just do a podcast. Let's reach more couples. We feel like we had been blessed and gone through some stuff. And the reason that we had gone through it was to really act as a guide, if you will, for other couples. And so let's reach more individuals. The podcast grew with no monetization in sight or in mind, went from that to let's coach. And then it went to, okay, from coaching, then it became, we can do clothing off of the logo and the branding. And then it was, no, we can teach further. We can have an evergreen. So it really began to evolve, but it started with the brand. The brand was, we have a purpose. And from that purpose, the trunk, if you will, then the branches began to grow.
Yeah. So how did you, because I love the kind of like the slow progression of let's do a podcast, let's grow our pillars. And then from there, we'll eventually get into monetization. So trying to make it, functional and applicable for other couples watching this, how did you determine what your tree trunk was, what your brand was, and how you stumbled upon, Married into Crazy and those 5 pillars? How do you go from we're a couple, we're individuals, this is what we stand for, to transforming that into a brand?
I wish I could say that there was a very calculated methodology to it.
Yeah.
But honestly, it was our calling called us. It was, we had a calling. And you know what? It's about being your true, authentic selves. There was a calling on our spirits, and we answered that calling. And from that calling, things developed. But it had to have a sense of authenticity, and we had to be true to what God was calling us to do.
Yeah. Kind of like Lovey said, there was, on my perspective, there was no one certain thing that happened, and we had like, okay, now it was just like maybe some aha moments, like, oh, okay, it was just something innately dropped in our spirits, mine anyway. And then we took that path. Okay, so we're here. Oh, maybe that makes sense. Okay, well, let's do that. Oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Let's do that. So
we do believe it was divine, because we didn't sit down and say, okay, we want to start a business. We need to do something for the family, and let's build a business plan. Oh, you want to do this? No. You want to do this? No. It wasn't a checklist. It was just that there's a calling. We wanted to bless others, and it enriched us in the process to work with other couples to help them, because we love doing that. And then as that happened, other things were revealed, like, oh, have you ever thought of this? And a lot of what we do now, the monetization pieces, it wasn't necessarily our idea. It was clients or people that we worked with. Like, have you guys thought about doing this? Because we do that. We buy that. And like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No, I
well,
never thought of it. So,
we'll do that
yeah.
then. You know, and as long as, I mean, there were some ideas. There's some stuff that we didn't implement. But the things that made sense that weren't a far stretch from what we were doing, it's an add-on. It's not our main focus is always staying true to the covenant of marriage and building. And then if these other things augment our main focus, then we evaluate it and decide whether or not we want to add it.
Yeah. I think you had a couple really good nuggets there. One, I think knowing that you said like it's not like you paved the whole plan, like your 5-year plan before you got started. You just had the purpose, right? You had that calling. And so you took that first step, right? For y'all was like, oh, let's start a podcast, right? Let's just get the message out there. Right. And then it started to piece itself together from there. And so I'm talking to all of my high C's out there,
Talk to
all of us analytical people who try to have plan A through Z planned out before we take the step number 1. Is for a lot of times you just have to take the first step to be able to see the next step that is right for you. So don't think that if you and your partner have an idea, right, just take that first step towards the idea. Take that first step, and then it will start to become clear as you go, right? You'll start to get these signs, these messages, right? You'll start to get these ideas from folks, and it just really starts to piece itself together, and it will become what it was meant to be. Sure. But that leads me to my next question is what has been the most difficult part about starting Married into Crazy, launching this business as a couple?
Making sure my wife doesn't kill me in the process.
Oh, look. Every day.
So, you know, I think one of the hardest thing for myself, just for us, is the separation between understanding Married into Crazy is not always Lovey and Snooks. I mean, we're still the Casons. That's who we are. You know, Married into Crazy is who we are also, but I don't want to talk about Married and Crazy all the time. You know, I just want to, I don't know, do regular whatever stuff. Like, can we have a conversation and it not always come back to Married and Crazy? So that's kind of hard, because when we're together, couple, the lines are blurred sometimes because, you know, we're always Married into Crazy all the time. We are, but I don't want to talk about it. Yeah. So, and that is different.
And I know I'm a major offender in that, because we could be in a major conversation. I mean, look, we're human. We have 3 adult children, 3 grandkids. Stuff happens. Stuff's going on. And then in the middle of it, I'm like, ooh, that would be a good topic. She's like, no, we're not talking about
that. I love it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is that. And I think the other part too is that you mentioned being a high C. I'm a high D, high I. She's a high S, I C. Yes. I'm ready to, like Steve Harvey, when he talks about jump, just jump. I'm all about jump. Let's jump. I don't even know if we got a parachute. Let's just jump and we'll figure it out on the way.
And I'm like,
I will knit a parachute as we fall.
He said
knit a parachute. What?
Oh, yeah, that's good.
I need to know is it going to be a soft landing? Is it hard? Am I going to get scraped jumping off the side? Is it going to hit me? I mean, I need to know all of the details. So we get kind of
that's where we.
Yeah, because Lovey's just like, let's just do it.
I'm like, it's not the jump, just jump. The jump's not the problem. I'm like, the landing is what hurts people. Let's figure that out.
That's what I want to know before I jump. You know, I'm like, am I going to be hurting? What's going to happen? You know, he's like, we don't know, blah, 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 whatever. And that is a crutch sometimes, because then we get into it about the process. Like, nope.
And then it becomes an episode.
I feel like that's a struggle that we have too. Like, I know, again, major offender over here. Like a lot, like probably 63.7% of the conversations will be about either the M4 show, Play Black Wall Street, or another one of the business ideas that we have.
89.
Strong 89%. I'll take that.
My
I'll take that. 89% are somehow business related. And what I've started to do lately is I'll ask her like, are you in a mind space where I can talk about business before I get into it? And usually she says yes, because I feel like she knows I want to talk about it. I don't know if she said no yet, but at least I'm asking for that permission now.
That's half the time I'm just like, at least he's asking. So let me just prepare myself. Okay, something's coming. And that at least I have a lead up. But so we've been talking about, we've mentioned like high C, high D. If for those who don't know what these letters mean, can you talk a little bit about the DISC assessment? I believe you all use that in your coaching as well. Can you talk a little bit about that if this is the first time they're hearing about this?
Yeah.
True. Within the corporate arena, throughout the world, there's a lot of different, they call them personality, index tests. There's so many. There's Enneagram, there's Myers-Briggs, this just happens to be one that's been around since 1928. A lot of science behind it. A lot of behavioral psychologists use it. I've been certified to actually work with individuals and provide this assessment. But what it really is, it's not, don't think you're getting your head messed with. It's really just showing you what your preferences and tendencies are so you can learn yourself. And they classify 4 different buckets. We have all of them to varying degrees, but there's a D, an I, an S, and a C. And there's specific traits that go with each, and we're all blends. But if you understand yourself better, you understand what your preferences and tendencies are, then it helps you kind of understand how you're interrelating with your spouse or with your business partners or with your children. And then that person that just rubs you the wrong way, now you're like, oh, you start looking at people differently, like, oh, okay, that's why they do what they do. So now you might not still like it, but now you start to understand them a little bit more. So you might even be able to build a bridge because now you understand their language and you understand your language better. You're like, okay, if I taper this, add a little bit of this, maybe we'll get along better. That happens in your home, that happens at work, that happens in your community.
Yeah. And I know that that's helped us being on kind of opposite sides of the spectrum is that what you said, like you understand a little bit more like where the other person is coming so that you may not be quick to jump to assumptions or judgments or anything like that. Right. So I think for us at first, me being the cautious one, the analytical one, I always have questions. I have a lot of questions, right? He's the dreamer. He's the a
lot of questions.
He's the expressive. He's got the ideas and the dreams. So he's like, hey, I have an idea.
A lot of ideas.
A lot of ideas. And so I'm here to listen. But at first, before we really understood this about each other, me jumping to questions he saw as me questioning his dream or his idea, as in I don't
you feel that, Ernie?
I don't approve of it, so I'm asking these questions. Now he understands that it's one, it helps us flesh the idea out further, right? And he understands that that's just me trying to understand and jump on board. I need these questions answered, right? So that I can feel comfortable to be like, okay, you know what? This is a good idea. How can we make this possible? And then also for you, right? You have the very high level, like 1,000-foot view of what your idea is, but you don't always able to get that nitty-gritty detail, which is where I come in, right? So I feel like the questions also help us flesh out what does this vision actually look like so that we can determine what our first step is going to be. So I think that now that we understand that about each other, it helps us in that 100%. Process. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's also helped us too, because I'm a very high C. Lovey's an extremely high D.
And my C is like
still kind of Sinclair, like you were saying, how Devon takes it, with the questions. I ask a ton of questions. I mean, and I had to, we had to do the assessment even with our children because they would get almost offended that I'm asking questions. And they're like, oh God, Mom, you're going to ask 50 million questions. And I'm like, look, that's just how I am. You all know that I'm wired that way. Don't take it personal. Don't get upset. And I'm not asking these questions because I think you're dumb. I'm asking these questions because I need to be comfortable. And if I'm not comfortable, ain't nobody moving. You know what I'm saying?
Ain't going nowhere.
That's just how it is, because I could say, oh, okay, go ahead. But in my mind, early on, I would just, all these questions would just like, oh my God, my head is going to explode because I have all these questions, but I felt afraid to ask them because I would offend them.
Yep. It's important. It really is. Whether it's this or something else, understand yourself. You can't contribute to your partner, your spouse, your soulmate if you don't even understand who you are. And even in Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the habits was first seek to understand before being understood. So you have to try and build a bridge and understand where the other person is coming from. That's also the C in crazy. It's about being compassionate. You have to look through the other person's lens in order to have compassion, to try and figure out where they're coming from before you even try to become understood. You can't get your point across if you don't even know what they're talking about.
Right.
That's a fact. So if you haven't taken it yet, y'all, make sure you take the DISC assessment or some type of assessment to get to know yourself and get to know your amazing, beautiful, possibly high C partner. You're so great.
Thanks.
So I think for us and possibly y'all, learning the personalities helped us kind of lean into specific roles within the business. So I don't know, have y'all like kind of divided up roles or components as far as like, okay, Snooks will do this, Lovey will do this, we'll both do this. Like, how does the responsibilities of the business and the brand get kind of broken down between y'all two?
Oh, I know she's gonna look at me.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing: the DISC has allowed me, but in the past, I'm just a go-do. Like I said, I'll jump, mid a parachute on the way down. I pretty much carry 98% of Married into Crazy.
This is the laugh.
5%.
Give me a fifth.
But what I've come to realize is that, and that's me being in the trenches doing this, because I don't want to put too much on her plate, because she is pursuing her master's program, and it's a lot. She's a full-time mom, full-time wife, full-time grandparent, going to school, has a full-time job. So many things going on.
There's like
if we really delineated, I mean, our relationship would be in a lot of trouble. So what I do is I try and map a lot of stuff out, get a lot of things done. But she is my consultant in those windows where I can actually go and talk to her. I'm like, okay, before I make a move, because I know if I do it myself, I'm gonna jack it up and have to go back and clean it up. So let me get your input on these, and she'll tell me, okay, I wouldn't do that, or I wouldn't do this, or I would word it differently this way, what have you, and why did you do it that way? And I'm like, okay, well, and so I still consult her on things.
Yeah, Lovey, I mean, I give him a hard time, but he does do most of the work in Married into Crazy, from setting up our appointments to making sure that we have just all the little ins and outs, and then I feel like I just come in and I sit down on the throne and I'm like, okay, I'm around, and I'm going to tell everybody what to do,
She does. I think she's done one time. But what we've done though is that because of that delineation or that letting her do that, we've brought on a virtual assistant that is also kind of like has very similar traits, isn't it? Very, very high S, very high C. So I'll have some stuff, bounce it off of her, then I'll feed it over to our VA, and the VA be like, why did you do this? Or have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? So I've almost got like a little surrogate Snooks. But when our VA says stuff, I still take it back to her.
And can you, for folks that maybe haven't been introduced to what virtual assistants are or what they do you mind giving just a brief intro to what that is?
Yeah, virtual assistant, a lot of times is, if you remember Pinocchio, virtual assistant is Jiminy Cricket sitting on your shoulder, particularly for those high D, high I's, that there's somebody that you can help delegate work to. Some of the things that you just don't have time to do. And it's difficult when you are a very control-oriented person like myself. I don't want to give up any part of the business, building process, but you need processes, you need procedures, you need things that are going to get done that you might not be able to. And they stand in the gap for you to get certain things done. I know for a fact that a lot of the things that we do right now for Married into Crazy, particularly like our Evergreen, when it comes to our video training series, we have a marriage enrichment program. That wouldn't exist because when I had a consultant that we were working with, the VA, our virtual assistant, handled a lot of the talking with the project manager over there, because I didn't have the technical expertise to do some of the things that they wanted to do. And B, I might have been at work or whatever, and they needed answers right then and there.
Yeah.
And I gave her the autonomy to be able to speak for Married into Crazy, and she's been a phenomenal find. And they're a lot of help. Don't think you have to do it all yourself. You are not a self-made millionaire.
Mm.
I don't care what anybody says.
They fill in the gaps. They literally, I mean, they build the bridges and fill in the gaps to where, because when you're just moving all the time, like Lovey said, full-time job, you're still trying to do other things. We forget a lot of stuff, and unintentionally, I mean, it can even be on the to-do list, and I don't have my glasses on and I missed it. You know what I'm saying? So they're there to fill the gaps and be a help, not a threat. Because like Lovey said, initially he was like, oh, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to get this up, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, so how is that going to help you? Or help us, I should say, with you being stressed out, number one, because he was stressed out a lot. And I was stressed out because he was stressed out. And I'm like, I'm not taking no ownership of, any of this. I'm just being honest. I'm like, I can't I don't know how to do it. So I'm not even gonna
try.
Oh man, shout out to Kevin Hart. Man, I love it. But that's a huge gem right there. I think a lot of folks, especially myself growing up, I thought, okay, self-made millionaire, I'm gonna get it, but myself get it out the mud. But we've definitely seen the most growth within Play Black Wall Street and the podcast once we grew the team, right? Having Jair on here to be able to help with the podcast production, having Harry, who does a lot of our video editing, having Rajel, who does a lot of our graphics and blog posts. Like literally we've been able to do so much and produce so much more growing the team. So that's a huge gem. Don't think you have to do it by yourself. Trust people, create procedures for other people to follow and grow that business, grow that vision. Right? If you're just tuning in, make sure you give us a like and subscribe wherever you're listening and watching. You are tuned in to the Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making show. We got the Married into Crazy couple with us, Lovey and Snooks. Make sure you show them some love as well. Go ahead and head to www.marriedintocrazy.com and follow them on social media at Married Into Crazy. I do want to swerve a little, and like zoom in on the podcast. Right? Because, we got a podcast, y'all got a podcast, and possibly people listening right now, they could be thinking, how do I do that? How do I start a podcast? What do I name it? How do we come up with our brand? All of that stuff. So can we kind of go back, way back in time when y'all first started off with the podcast, and what led you to start a podcast specifically instead of a blog or instead of just the Instagram? Why a podcast?
Well, when we were leaving the conference in 2018, we were in San Francisco. We were just so hypey. It was just crazy, the energy that we got at the Take Control. Was it Take Control?
Mm-hmm.
At the Take Control conference. And so we were like, we could be better, not better, but we could reach more people. We could help more people. And he's like, you should do a podcast. And Lovey's always been big on podcasts, me not so much. He was like, we could do a podcast. And I was like, oh, okay. How do you do that? We just kind of like, oh, we'll figure it out. And my first thought was, who's going to listen to us? Besides family, or we have 5 people listening. And he was like, I got this. You just think of topics and I got this. So I was like, okay.
Yeah. When we talked about Jump, it was August 2018 when E.T., Carl, and all of them came to San Francisco. That was the end of August. September 5th. I was just look, I had a book and I was like, oh, okay, press this button. And, and then do that. I'm like, oh, that doesn't look good. Well, whatever. And I just kept it going. And it was, if you listen to episode 1, which was called Bamboozled, versus now, very different. We had a different name. Yeah. We had to rebrand as a result of not really knowing what we were doing. But it was just about getting in motion. I think God's blessings don't show up when you're stagnant. They don't show up in one place. God's blessings show up as you are in motion.
I'm gonna say, and I don't know. This is create the content, put it out there, and don't worry about who comes and who doesn't. Stop. who
Hold up
comes in
now.
does it. Because initially I was worried. I was like, ooh, I don't know about all that. Ours is different. There's a different reason. But just do it. Put it out. And if people listen, because they will listen, you know.
Yeah,
It may not move as fast as you want it to, but
Nikki Saunders, the guru, was like, just look, it's not that big. Just put it out there. And people, the people that are supposed to be around you will. I used to have this saying that said that in order to be a movement, you have to be in motion.
Mm.
And it's just put it out there. And I'll give you an example. I put some social media out, some meme, and I don't remember what it was. I put a meme out, didn't really get any traction. Me being the high D, high I, I forgot that I put it out. And then a couple of months later, I put it out again on accident because I didn't know that I'd already done it. It was in my library. I'm like, oh, I need to do this. The exact same thing went quasi-viral as opposed to the other one. I said, it got tens of thousands of views where the exact same thing, no change. I just made a mistake. So it's like, you just never know when it's going to hit. Don't let it, look, if you feel good about it and it's bolstering your message, just get it out there. If it's your podcast, you have a voice, get it out there. If you have a meeting, and for us, it was very true and very altruistic. It was just about touching. If we could help one other couple, we were golden. And when the feedback started coming in, we're like, oh, we're helping a few couples. Okay, well, and it helped us with our marriage as well.
yeah, it did.
Oh, talk about it. Go ahead. Go.
So initially, I mean, it's kind of funny, like you said, oh, may have involved a knife, our story.
There was some healing that came.
It was, and it also helped me to not be afraid of the judgment, because I carried that, like, oh, people that were close to us knew our story, but outside of us, our circle or whatever, they didn't know. And so I had to learn not to be afraid of what other people may say, how I will be looked at, you know what I'm saying? So for everyone who's like, well, did she stab him? I didn't stab him, it's like, what, you talking cryptic, lady? Yeah. So just our whole story, just being very comfortable in the judgment that I feel like I would have received. That was the thing that held me back. So
Yes. As a reminder, y'all, if y'all want to hear the full story that they're talking about, go to episode 73.
Yeah.
That's where you can hear the story. But I think we talked about this a few episodes ago, the idea that when you're saying, like, just put it out and don't necessarily worry too much about how it's received. It's the act of putting it out there. That's how you get in motion, right? That's how what you were talking about. And God's blessings, they don't come unless you're in motion. And we were talking about, like, what greatness means. And really what we came down to is that it's the process of being your best and doing what you're supposed to do every single day, regardless of the outcome. And I feel like that's where that comes in, right? So regardless whether it gets 0 views or 200,000 views or 2 million views, right? You still put it out there. You still did your part, and let God, let the universe handle the rest, and it will come in its proper timing. So I think that's definitely important to do is just focus on what you can control, which is the message that you put out into the world, and let the rest be. But on that note, how when you're at the beginning stages, right? Okay, you've decided we're going to do a podcast. We have a message. How do you determine, like, who you talking to? Who's your ideal listener? I feel like that's kind of maybe the next step that folks kind of need, or the next question that needs answered is like, okay, well, we have a message, but who are we talking to? And how do you make sure that message is reaching the ears of the people that you want it to?
True. I think some of that requires you to look in the mirror. What holds value to you, and then realize why, and then ask yourself, why does it resonate with you? But we all make the same mistake in the very beginning. We start off with a very wide audience. I want to talk to the whole world. Everybody can benefit from my knowledge. But you got to narrow it down. And so in that narrowing, there's also a whole lot of humility that goes with that. Because you feel like this has applicability to everyone. But then you have to realize, but that doesn't mean that everybody's going to come to the trough and drink the water. You have to actually know who you're inviting to the table, so to speak. And it helps tremendously. Like, who do you really want to help at the end of the day? Who's this going to truly benefit? For us, we know that it's basically women from the ages of 34 up to 55. That's the biggest swath of our audience. But then if you look, there's also men that are in there as well. These women are listening because they're taking it to their husbands. There's there's a smaller group of men that are listening, are like, okay, you know what? I'm having some challenges. I don't want to go talk to anybody because there's a little bit of a machismo that's involved. I will listen to this podcast and take credit for whatever they say if I implement it.
Yep.
So there's a little bit of that as well. So as we narrowed it, it made sense. And then you start to see feedback coming in either from the podcast or YouTube or emails, whatever. And you just know that you just have to show up. And I love what Sinclair was saying about just do it. My biggest issues with the podcast dips when I start paying attention to the numbers. When I start looking at and over analyzing the analytics and like, okay, so this, that, okay, we have to change this because it didn't hit like this and the numbers went down. The more I do of that, I've noticed that there's been a slow decline. And then when I sit there and just put it aside and say, you know what, let's just have conversations. Let's just talk. Let's go where the spirit leads us. And then when I go in to actually post a new episode, I'll look, I'm like, whoa, how did that happen? And I'm like, you know, it was organic. You stayed true to the message. God didn't say, I want you to actually create this so that way you can get your analytics and make a ton of money. He said, you know what, there's a message to be, he said, there's a message to be shared with couples. He said, bless other couples. And if we stay true to that, that's us. But stay true to it. But know who you're staying true to. And if you can figure that out, it makes all the difference. I can't tell you, you need to have, a very narrow niche. It helps, but you need to find your tribe. And more times than not, your tribe finds you because you're being true to who you are and what your calling is.
So if you could see, I was like, I was waiting for, I was being very humble in that moment because I was waiting for him to say, but Snooks said, just put it out there. Don't worry about it. But he didn't say that. So I thought I'd clarify. I was like, you know what? I don't care about the numbers dipping, And,
She don't.
But my thing is, if what we're doing is we feel like we're called to do, then like you said, your tribe is going to find you. And sometimes our tribe may be on vacation. They're not finding us at that moment. They find us. And there are people unexpectedly, just out of the blue, we had someone who was in Africa? South Africa send an email and it was like, this just blessed me so much, blah, blah, blah. And it was very humbling. You know what I'm saying? So again, not worrying about who's looking, what the numbers are, this and that. If we're doing it because we feel like we can help other people, then we just do it. So
what's funny is that message, and we actually framed it and it's up on our wall because that message came.
That was a reminder
at a point where we were both like, is this even worth doing? And that's our other pact. We made a pact that we both tried to quit. We just don't quit at the same time.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I want to circle back a little bit to like very bare bone basics for people that want to start a podcast. How do you get your episodes out? Right? Like you go to iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Music, and you go to all these places and somehow Married into Crazy is right there. How did you do that?
I'm going to forget the name of the book and I have forgotten it. There's a book called Podcast. There's this guy.
Podcasting for Dummies?
No, it wasn't Podcasting for Dummies.
Okay.
But there was a gentleman that was known. He was real big in the podcasting world. And it's really going to bother me that I can't think of his name right now. But he had a book that I followed. And I just basically went step by step by step. And he gave every single step that you're supposed to do. And it's really going to irritate me that I can't think of his name right now. And I recommend that same book to everyone that comes to me and says, how do I start a podcast?
Is that the guy you called?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not them.
Okay.
But realistically, there's little things that you can do. Some of them are free. Some of them actually cost money. And we went with the one that actually cost just a little bit to start off, where we can actually house the episodes. Simply because I wasn't looking at our podcast for where we were in the moment when nobody was listening. I was thinking about where we could eventually, our goal was to touch 1 million couples, to positively impact a million marriages. And in order to do that, I didn't feel like doing it the free way all the time was going to really benefit us down the road, because you just never know. You're one listener away from, viral or being discovered or what have you. And that's the direction that we went. So I know I'm being a little cryptic in my response, because there's so many different ways that you can actually start. You can go on YouTube, how to start a podcast, and they'll have specific steps to it. And it has to speak to you and the way that you like to actually work. And follow those steps and be accountable to them. Don't sit there and go, I don't like the way they did that, especially if you're new. I don't like the way they did that. I'm going to do it my way. Stick to the script, whatever that particular blueprint is that you want to follow.
Nice. So I came into I heard I'm being cryptic. So I take it you didn't give a straightforward answer in that.
Did not give a straightforward answer. Like I said, there was a book. It was called Podcasting. I want to say it was Podcasting 101. And it was by a gentleman that was interviewing a lot of people in the very beginning. He was in the very forefront of podcasting. And he had a book, and I went with the digital book that he had. And if I can remember it, I don't know, I can't think of his name. I can see the cover, but I got the digital version because he had links in there for, so that I can just click on a link and then do this. He talked about which microphones to use. He said he talked about the high-end microphones. And he says, and these microphones will do the job. It's the exact same microphones we have to this day, 200 and, 30, 200, however many episodes we have that much later. So he said, don't get lost in the tech. So I don't get lost in the tech. So he had these little steps, and I followed it like it was a baking recipe. And we followed the same recipe. Only now, almost 3 years later or whatever, am I starting to look to try and get more like the M4 show.
Hey.
Much love.
Shout out to Orland.
What does it say? I can't read that.
She's basically just saying that she loves the episode.
Oh yeah, this is a good one. Thank you, Overland. We appreciate you, sis. So you can go with the freed version as well. So there's like anchor.fm. You can go to that website. It is free. It is owned by Spotify. And from that one place, you can send your podcast to Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, all that good stuff. There's also Buzzsprout, which is also good, but does cost a little bit of money, but it does similar stuff. So if you're looking to start your podcast next week, just jump, figure it out, go to one of those websites, or get the book that Brother Lovey was talking about, and you can go ahead and get started.
Can I prolong this just a little bit, because you mentioned something, and this is the viewpoints of the Caissons don't necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Devon and Sinclair. I want to give them a little bit of a buffer. You mentioned Anchor. And Anchor is great for a lot of individuals. But one thing that, particularly in the African-American community, that we've struggled with is ownership. And there's some fine print in a lot of these different places. Know who you're doing business with. Though Anchor is owned by Spotify, and that sounds phenomenal, you can get your content can get repurposed and moved around by utilizing Anchor. You want complete ownership of owning your master tape, so to speak, right? You want complete ownership is something that we need to have. Look into Buzzsprout, look into Libsyn, because it's your content. You can do what you want, when you want, how you want, and nobody else can utilize that without your permission. Anchor, on the other hand, has had issues in the past where they can do what they want with your content. You can actually insert ads that you might not necessarily agree with because you're on their platform. So make sure that if you're doing this for ownership, for longevity, for legacy, that you know who you're doing business with and why.
That's real good. And that brings us to something that we want to talk about, that we've gotten great IP knowledge from you all, right? So do you mind breaking down just what intellectual property is, and then what are some important pieces of IP that you all wanted to make sure you got for Married Into Crazy?
Absolutely. So when you hear terms like intellectual property, you're talking about copywriting, you're talking about trademarking, even to the extent of how you're going to structure your business, if it's going to be a sole proprietorship or LLC, if you're going to have an S corp. There's all these different terms. You want to definitely have conversations. If this is going to be a business, talk with your tax consultant, talk with your business lawyer if you have one. But when it comes to IP, you see the name behind this, Married Into Crazy. I talk about ownership. This makes sure that, so Married Into Crazy is, it's a federally registered trademark. So you can, if I see somebody using Married Into Crazy somewhere, I can send them a cease and desist letter or sue them because I own Married Into Crazy. We own.
Hey, get them, Snooks.
we have it trademarked, Married Into Crazy. But even our logo that we have created by somebody else, we're in the process now of trademarking that as well. It's actually in process. So we technically we own that now as well, because we can put SM on it because we own it and we've utilized it in a variety of different markets. On top of that, there's but we're now we just this past week, talking about what's new, we just became an LLC, a limited liability corporation. I've been a sole proprietorship for the longest, but now we just went to an LLC. So our ownership is going to be placed within, we're going to own our trademark within the LLC, which actually protects us, the couple, the human beings, the Lovey and Snooks married couple. Gives us a barrier to where if something happens, somebody takes some of our advice and they're like, oh, they caused us to get divorced and we're going to sue them because I followed it. She said something, I followed it, even if it was misconstrued. Well, they can sue the LLC, but it won't affect our personal wealth.
Yeah.
It'll go to the business. So there's different things you want to add in layers. And it's important that you have, again, ownership. You know, this goes back to Ray Charles. You know, you want your master tapes. You want to own everything so you can create that legacy for your family to continue on. But that happens with ownership. If you don't have your name, think about your name when it comes to your podcast. You know, and some people start a podcast and then you're going like, oh, I love this name and it means this. And then you go on to, let's say you go into Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You type it in, all of a sudden there's 25 other podcasts with your name. I guarantee one of them actually has a trademark. They have ownership. They're just not flexing on anybody because you might be talking about different topics, you know, that aren't theirs. That's the other thing. Just because we own Married Into Crazy, we try to make it as broad and very specific. Well, I won't say broad, very specific to what we do. So that way nobody can sit there and say, oh, well, we also have a podcast and it's in audio and in visual. And we talk about the edutainment when it comes to helping married couples. No one else in the world can do that. Now, if he said, oh, we have something called Married Into Crazy because, you know, we're a bunch of individuals focused on psychology and we have, you know, we talk to these people, they might be able to do that. And I wouldn't go after them because it's in a different space. I own our space. And because it's what's true to us. And I'm not going to flex. Maybe God has something for those individuals with theirs. I'm not going to worry about them. I'm only going to worry about ours. But it's extremely important that you trademark. If you're writing a book, that you get it copyrighted. If you're writing a song, poetry, whatever, and what you do, get that thing copyrighted. And there's a variety of places you can go to do that. There's Resource Me, LLC. They're one group that actually does trademarking and creating business entities. You can go to LegalZoom, where you can do that. That's where I got my very first trademark. You know, my LLC was done through someone else. I'm going back. Resource Me is who I'm going to be utilizing for continuing to get trademarks. So there's different entities that you can use. Do your research, but don't just be fly by night. Oh, I'm going to do this and I'll get to it later. It will cost you.
Oh, yeah. Get them trademarks, y'all. Get your IP. We're in the process of getting our IP for the M4 show, so y'all can't take our beautiful name. Don't play us.
Do not play.
Don't play us. It's already pending. So our application's already in there. Stop playing with us. Go ahead, Queen.
So I wanted to take a step back a second. I know we've been in the podcast space, but I do want to take a step back. So you mentioned earlier, you can tell, right? Lovey, you're into the bag. You've done a lot of work. You've done a lot of thought process of how you brand your podcast. And you mentioned earlier that you do a lot of most of the work for Married Into Crazy. And for us, Devon has done a lot of the heavy lifting. I'm slowly finding my lane and my bag within our businesses, but he's also done a lot of the heavy lifting, being the high D, high I, all of that. So my question is for you, Snooks.
Okay.
How do you support someone like that, a dreamer, right? An executor, a go-doer. How do you properly support someone like that without being overbearing, without asking too many questions, but also like making sure that you're there for them and they're also not gonna be pouring from an empty cup?
Good question.
I say, heck no, we ain't doing it now. I'm playing. No. So, for me, understanding who Lovey is as a person and what his goals are, what the end goals are, I should say. I know that when he gets going, all right, he's about to be just full blown. It's going to take over everything. And I just let him have his space. I give him the creative space to do whatever it is that, or at least start the process, the thought process of, okay, I think I want to do this. Or, okay, I think he's whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, well, when you feel like, I want to say when you feel like, I think we know each other enough now to where he knows at what point to come and insert for my opinion. Because if it's the 5 most important questions I'm going to ask, he already has the answers to. So I don't have to pull teeth, pull for him to give me this. Oh, okay, well, I didn't think about that, or blah, blah, blah. I just allow him to have his creative space. That's so important, because I can't just shut him down, be like, here you go again. All you got, you thinking about all this, blah, blah, blah. Even if sometimes I'm feeling like, babe, we can't do all this stuff, I'll say certain things, certain leading things to where he'll come to that conclusion himself. Oh, well, yeah, you know what? We probably can't do it. And I'm thinking, thank you, Jesus. No, we cannot.
I'm gonna need some pointers on what those leading.
Yeah, go ahead. Drop the gems.
Yeah.
What are those leading?
She'd be doing them Jedi master tricks. She's like, this is not the business you want.
I'm like young Anakin. I need your wisdom. I need to work on that.
Because I go and I'm like, oh, we can do this, and she'll do this little move, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna take the trash out.
Oh,
that's crazy. No, so at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, so what is it that we're trying to accomplish? What is it that we want to do? Because too many adventures, I'll call them, they will take us away from each other. And if we're steadily moving, and I'm like, where's our quality time? We can't have our hands full of all this quantity. I don't care about quantity. I want quality. And if too many projects, or you got so many ideas, and because we're always moving, and there's no quality. And I'm big on, we don't got to do everything together. I love when we do things together, and I understand you got to have your space. I got to have my space too. But I don't want us to be so divided and trying to conquer all these different things that we lose sight of who we are together. We won't be married. We'll be married and crazy, but it won't be compassionate, real, accountable, and zealous and yielding. It's just going to be off the hook crazy. We just crazy.
Yeah.
So we don't really want to lose sight of that. I don't want to lose that. So sometimes I have to impart that to Lovey, like, okay, so if we do this, so then what about us? What are we gonna? And he's like, oh, okay, I got you. And I'll, follow that up with, well, maybe later, maybe we could do it down the road, because to be honest, all of us are busy within our lives. And I just put it on school. So I'm like, well, baby, I got school. Oh yeah, you got school. I'm like, dude, I'm only got books all over the place. How do you forget that I'm school, I'm like, well, I have school. So I don't know how we'll be able to. And I'll let him go back and figure it out. I'm not going to tell him how to do it. I'll just be like, well, this is what I got. My plate is so full, Okay. And he'll go back and readjust or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just,
Snooks is the
it has
queen.
to be quality.
She's the queen of dreams deferred. She doesn't deny dreams. I mean, but what's nice is that she's a queen.
All our dreams are on forbearance. We ain't doing them.
Forbearance.
But by tabling it, not throwing them away, not 86ing it, but by tabling it, it does give us an opportunity. At least I say us. It gives me an opportunity. Like, is it really that important? Because instead of just jumping, I'm like, okay, let me try these different things, and whatever lasts, I'll throw spaghetti up against the wall all day long. Whatever sticks, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, you're wasting spaghetti. So is there a purpose to that? So it gives me a chance to think like, yeah, you know what? That probably doesn't fit, or maybe it's not something that we need to do. If it does, it'll come back around. on its own.
Yeah.
And then also just, some of the questions that I ask are, okay, so when I know he has all these different projects, I'm like, so you want to do that and this, or you want to do that instead of this?
Mhm.
And so how will that look if you're trying to do this and that, or this or that? So which one is more important? Because you got to pick something. If you want to make it great, you can't just sprinkle
Can't do it all.
like a fourth cup of water. I won't say make it great. You want a full cup.
Mhm.
But so pour into that cup, not taking a quarter. What is that?
Pouring everybody's different cups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The measurements, the smallest
Little
one
tablespoon.
will never ever be full. Well,
Mhm.
it will be in 50 years, So
I'm sorry.
you're not sorry. He's pinching me.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. But I
Oh.
think
Tell me to be quiet.
I think you're spot on, and I do think I'm learning to do that a little bit better, of like the not at first, right? I'll admit I was a dream just slasher.
Bow!
Yeah.
Pow! Pow! Can't do that.
That ain't gonna work. Nah, pimp.
Here's the time, Devon. Who's going to write all these?
So yeah, at
Oh,
first I
man.
really was not understanding how it was affecting him, right? And I wasn't understanding that I was stifling his creative energy. Like you said, we have to really foster that creative energy. So now I think I'm learning to ask the questions, right? Bring the concerns. And I think the analogy that I've been using is like, we have 100%, right? We at any given point, we have 100% to give, but everything that we do takes away, right? Is going to divide up that 100%. So we
Right.
can do 5 things, but we're only going to be able to give it 20% of our energy, or we can do 2 things and give it 50% of our energy and really get it to the point, get it to where we need it.
Mhm.
So I feel like kind of after bringing that up a few times, I think now he kind of comes to that conclusion himself sometimes when he'll bring something up.
It's the Jedi mind tricks again.
I like that
Yeah.
analogy, though. I really do.
Yeah. And he'll be like, okay, yeah, you know what? Maybe that's not the right time for this. Or my new thing has been like, you know what? That's a great idea. Write it down and we can get to it later, right?
Mhm.
Well, when we got the podcast up, we've been going through this rebrand. We've been going through, getting everything to where we want it to be. Once we get to we're on autopilot for something, then maybe we can add something else to the plate, right? But we're not to that point with anything yet.
Right.
So I think we're both now understanding that. So I think it's much easier, right? And I don't stifle the ideas now. It's the deferment, right? It's like, this is great. This is going to be great in 10 years when we have more capital, we got more time, we got these businesses on autopilot, we've got our business expenses or our living expenses covered from our real estate, right? That's going to be the time to act on this.
Right.
And I think that's definitely helped.
Yes, I do want to give a huge shout out to all the amazing Black women Jedis out here playing Jedi mind tricks on their husbands. We appreciate you. Queen, do you mind reading these comments that are coming in?
Yes. This says, how do you start a business when your other half is a pessimist and keeps giving unsolicited business advice?
This is a good one. All right, we're gonna pitch that up to our amazing guests over there. What advice would you have for couples that may be in that situation?
I'm like, I would probably be the pessimistic one, so I'm gonna let him answer it.
Words are powerful, and by immediately labeling them as a pessimist, it just means it's a differing opinion. I wouldn't necessarily classify the person as like, there's reason for that person to be like, how many ideas have you pitched? How many businesses bounced around from like, oh, we're going to do this. Oh, you know what? This week we're going to do this. Oh, in the past we're going to do this. And there is such a thing as, learning by experience, but you have to actually apply the lessons that come along with it. So is the person not on board? I don't want to call them a pessimist, but are they not on board because they still got scar tissue from other things that have actually happened? It's worth sitting down, digesting like, well, what is it about this idea or maybe me? Is it me or is it the idea? And let's get to the root of why I don't think this is going to work. Is there something else that you think might work better that we could both get behind?
That's good.
I would go that route. And as far as the unsolicited advice, it helps to understand why, and that might be the root of why that advice is coming as well. especially if you're not getting the unsolicited advice in every other avenue or nuance within your relationship. If it's just pertaining to this, there's something at the root.
Or, I mean, I won't say or, but in addition to that, if you feel like it's unsolicited advice, why don't a suggestion would be to incorporate them into some of the ideas. Oh, you don't, okay, unsolicited. So then how would you do it? Because they want to be asked. I don't know, that gets them involved in the process also. Especially if you're a couple. So, okay, well, you don't think, so then how would you tell me how you would do it?
And be genuinely inquisitive. Not that, okay, well, fine. What would you do?
Yeah.
Don't have attitude. But be like, no, okay, maybe you might have some great ideas. Yeah. Trust. We don't know it all. And somebody might have just a little twist. All it takes is a 1% variation to find that success. What is it? KFC special
original recipe.
Right, original recipe. Somebody else was making some chicken too, but they might have been 1 or 2 ingredients off. They just couldn't get it just right. And maybe that person that has the advice has those extra couple of ingredients you need to make it great. But we have to be open to be able to receive that. But it still goes back to getting to the root of where are the challenges at with this particular endeavor. Help me understand why you're not completely on board. What can we do to tweak it so that way we can both be in the boat rowing in the same direction?
Exactly.
Love it. Great question. Great answer. Feel free, if y'all got more questions, put them inside the chat. And if you didn't know, we are here with Ernie and Rana from the Married into Crazy podcast. You can follow them on social media. Oh, they got the handshake.
Hey,
they got
I like it.
Got the handshake. Yeah, go to the website www.marriedintocrazy.com. Hold on, quick. We got handshake too. Hold up now. Come on now. You're not gonna show us up on our show. Come on now. What?
I think they said they were going to get a handshake because the last time we had one and they did it.
Exactly. That's the first thing Lovey was like, oh, you know what? We got a handshake, right?
Practice that. But y'all been sitting in the hot seat for some time now. So we do want to see if y'all want to take a little bit of rest. This is our Ask Declare segment where y'all are able to ask us questions about our love journey, our business journey, or our health journey. So pass the ball over to your court.
Okay, so I want to say mine is not necessarily a question, but I do want everyone to know earlier this year, I had some health challenges, and I hooked up with Sinclair.
The health nerd.
Sinclair has my big thing was that the whole water thing, and she was like, you need to get a bigger jug. You need to I know, babe. Can you unsolicited advice? I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And she's like, okay. She's very patient and everything. So I eventually went and got a water thing.
Love it.
And just following what Sinclair said that I needed to do, I am down 14 pounds,
Let's go.
So, for all of y'all that's listening, my girl knows what she's talking about. So I just want to the queencoaching.com. Look, I'll read that out, Jerry. Go there. But it was just really good to connect with another female. A lot of times in someone who was very patient. So if you all need to shed some pounds, or just have some safe space, the yoga, all the suggestions that Miss Sinclair put out there for me, I implemented those, and I'm feeling good. And it's helped with the stress of school, because I was like I said, there are days I'm gonna come in the house and I'm just gonna shoot it all up like a Scarface. I'm taking everything out. So
I do have a question. So I've been able to watch the evolution of you two as a business couple. Yeah. And I'm just curious. So I've seen things. So the podcast has changed. Your background has changed. And so I like to know, how are you two navigating not just the business itself, but the changes that are taking place, because there's an evolution of thought, and you're very meticulous about your way, like the show notes, the things that you sent us to prepare for the show. You're very calculated in how you did it. So how did you go from the old show to this and changing your backdrop? And I know that everything that you have in your background right now serves a purpose. How did you all come about making those decisions?
Great question. So it was a very long and anxiety driven process, right?
Yes.
Because we just jumped into it. So we were True Health Forever for maybe a year and a half, almost 2 years.
100 episodes.
100 episodes, right? And we did this one episode in Santa Barbara. We were watching Kevin Hart. Shout out to Kevin Hart. And we were just like, you know what? Like, we're 100 episodes in. Let's actually evaluate. Are we still on brand with True Health Forever? Are we still talking about what we said we would talk about? Are we doing what we said we would do? And we were honest with ourselves. Jair was there as well. He was honest with us, and we were all just like, no.
Yeah.
True Health Forever literally isn't it. Like, we talk about health sometimes, but usually we're talking about wealth. And then we were like, kind of taking your advice. We looked in the mirror and we were like, okay, if we're talking to ourselves, who are we? Like, we're melanated. We want to be millionaires. We want to be wealthy. We want to travel the world. So like, let's talk to ourselves. Let's talk to couples like us who either already are millionaires or maybe are millionaires in the making. And then I was like, boom, I got it. I got the brand name.
He always does that. And he'll do this for like a minute before he actually says it. And I'm just sitting there like,
I got to build up the anticipation.
Whenever
like,
you're ready.
Yeah. I was like, okay, how about this? Let me know how y'all like this. This is fire. You ready? Here it is, right here. Let's go right now. Yes. Melanated Married Millionaires in the making. And I sat back.
Let it marinate.
I was like, yeah, that's it. Right. And, at first the queen was like, okay, it's cool. We'll see. But then as she kept saying it, butchering it every time, of course, you couldn't say it at first.
That's true.
It's okay, queen.
Like, this month is the first time I've been able to actually say it.
Go ahead.
Melanated Married Millionaires in the making.
Boom.
We've come far.
We come very far. Jair, he was like, yep, I think that's it. That's dope. We shortened it for M4, so it still kind of pays kind of homage to our TH4 legacy and kind of where we came from. And then we, gave it to our graphic design team, and we gave like a little sketch, or I gave like several logo designs. And then the one that we finally came up with was the M and the 4 kind of, smushed together into one image, one logo, representing the castle that we're trying to build, the kingdom that we were trying to build and help other kingdoms and queendoms build, the crown that's on both of our heads representing royalty, and we want other married couples to also have that royalty. And then in the background here, we also have that tree of life, right? Because we want to make sure that we're being connected to our roots. We have a strong base, a strong trunk, and then we have those branches of our family, of our brand going out to everything. So yes, everything is very meticulous. It took probably 4 to 5 months to fully transform from True Health Forever to M4 and get the new intro, the new logo, change the website, change the podcast name and all that stuff. But once we got into our groove,
right,
we were like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah. I think one piece too that I think was an important part of the journey is once we decided like, okay, we want to rebrand, we got feedback. So we came up with like 4 different names, and we asked the community like, hey, this is what we're thinking. We're thinking of a rebrand. We're still going to be, the idea was like, we're not actually going to change too much of what we're talking about, because we were already talking about this stuff. We're already talking about wealth. We were already talking about running a business with each other. So it was just like, hey, we're thinking about changing the name of the podcast and rebranding. How do these names feel? We were throwing spaghetti at the fridge, right? How do these names resonate with you all? And the funny thing is that most people still were saying like True Health Forever. No, stick with True Health Forever. We like that. But then we took the feedback, right? And we took it for what it was. It's feedback. And at the end of the day, the decision is ours. And what we realized is like, okay, they don't have the vision that's in our head. All they know is the title, right? They just see the title, and just based on the title, they know True Health Forever. So they already like our podcast. So they're probably like, no, don't change anything. Right. But
don't change.
Don't change. Right. But we know like, okay, but this is the vision that we have in our head of where we want to be. And we want to make sure that it aligns with a new person who's looking for, you know, a podcast. If they're going to Spotify, if they're going to iHeartRadio, wherever, and they're typing in a podcast and something comes up, is what they listened to what they expected from when they clicked on that title. And we wanted, and that was kind of where we determined, like, before, we really were not meeting their expectations. So how can we change and create this vision that we have in our head that definitely aligns with, one, who we are and who we want to be in the future, but also who our listener would, what our listener would expect when they click on our podcast. So I think where we landed is right where we're supposed to be.
Yep.
So I think that, I just say that to say, like, I think getting feedback is an important piece of the puzzle. Even if it doesn't exactly point to where you think it's going to be, it can further solidify what you know in your mind, right? Or it can help ask further questions, like, okay, well, what do we need to do to make sure that this name sticks, right? So yeah, I think that was another good important piece of the puzzle that I'm glad that we did, that I definitely recommend folks do, is, you know, get that feedback, because if nothing else, it's just information for you to further, you know, feel good about the decision that you're about to make. So yeah.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good. You guys are I don't know. I think you guys are an inspiration, honestly. You know, because I, like Lovey said, you know, looking at the background and just all the stuff that what we received, and I was like, I want to be like them when I grow up. You know,
we saying the same thing over here,
right?
Trying to be like y'all.
I love your love story. You know, oh my gosh, I love it. I always enjoy all the little pictures and stuff like that. You know, I'm into all the frou stuff. But I just love how you guys love on each other. Devon, I love how, you know, you don't just say she's your queen. You like, you
emphasize
show that's my queen, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And Sinclair, she just eats it up, and she's
I
like,
do. I do. It's all day.
no, I love that, and I, especially because you guys, to me, you guys are a very young couple, you know, and it's good to see a young couple, a young Black couple specifically, loving each other, emphasizing that love, and you're like, no, this is what we live, this is our lives, this is what we do, you know. So I appreciate that from being married and, you know, in love with my guy. I love, you know, so
loving unapologetically. That's the way it should be.
Yes.
I say.
Thank you.
And that's one of the extra things that we wanted to, you know, that changed a little bit from Trio Forever to M4, is really being unapologetic and showing that Black love.
Yes.
Because in doing the research that we did for even start this show, we found out that it was like over 50% of Black Americans aren't married. Right? Like just aren't married. We think about the millions of amazing melanated Black folks that we have out there, all of our amazing queens, our powerful kings, just kind of living life solo on their own for whatever, whether it's by choice or by life circumstances. So we wanted to kind of be able to show beautiful couples like yourself who have been in the game for how many years y'all got in?
We're almost 26.
26 years in the game. Let's pop that up. Love it, right? 26 years in the game. You got your children. You said you got your grandchildren. So it's, I think, a beautiful example to see a couple who's been through all the ups and downs of marriage, loving on each other, building together, and being able to pass that wisdom on to your kids. So again, we're trying to be like y'all. Thank you for paving the way and showing an example of what a Black married couple can look like today.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Of course.
I receive it too. Me too.
So I know y'all do coaching within Married Into Crazy, where folks can, again, try to get a little bit more into the healing space of their marriage, make sure that they are being compassionate, zealous. I'm messing up the methods.
The acronym to the professionals.
Y'all got the acronym. hit us with the acronym of what crazy stands for.
Married Into Crazy. It's not just it's not that negative connotation of crazy, though it did start out that way. But the acronym that we were led to was, you know, it's
compassionate,
real,
accountable, zealous, and yielding.
Yielding.
5 pillars on which we teach. So everything we do within our coaching program, it really revolves around crazy. There's always going to be room for us to be more compassionate with each other. We talk about staying real, rooted in reality. Because a lot of times, on that drive home, what have you,
I already know he gonna say this, and I'm finna answer like that, and fake arguments.
we create these narratives in our head, and your body doesn't know any difference. Your mind, when you're going through that stuff in your head, you have the same biological responses as if it's truly happening. You're getting keyed up before you even walk through the door, and we're like, no, don't do that. Let's stay on the real. Let's stay rooted in reality. What is the true issue? Your spouse isn't the issue. The issue is the issue. And if we can get you to focus on what's real, then you have a better chance of really finding solutions. And then being accountable to each other, to your covenant, and to your future, your legacy. And really, the accountability piece is really huge. And the zealousness.
The zealousness is just, you have to remember, number one, why you got married, and remember what it was like in the beginning. So many people lose that zeal for their spouse. When we were boyfriend and girlfriend, we first got together, I couldn't wait to talk to him. I couldn't wait to do all these things, and then we get married and it's like, oh, hey. Yeah. And
here he go again.
He's weird.
No, you hang up. You fall asleep, on the phone together. Now it's like you see a text and you're like,
God, what are you gonna say now?
Oh no.
Remember to be zealous for each other, not just zealous. We like to say, not when you right, you like, oh, I can't wait to tell him this was blah blah blah, but be zealous for each other and just yielding. That kind of speaks for itself. Just, you don't always have to be right. You don't always have to go first. Yield, be yielding, and yield to each other, yield to the relationship. First of all, we yield to God first. That's very important. And then the two of us, and we go from there.
Yeah. And so that's what it's all about. In our whole coaching platform, whether it's us coaching couple to couple, us coaching individuals that are married or premarital, or if you're doing any of our online programs, that's more self-paced. All of it really stands on the same principles of being crazy.
There it is. So if you want to get some marriage coaching, make sure y'all go to www.marriedintocrazy.com. And I believe there was a specific program that actually y'all have available soon, or maybe it's already available. Can you talk about raising the bar for folks in their marriage?
We just launched Raise the Bar in Your Marriage. So you can access it either at this site, or you can go through Married Into Crazy and you scroll through. But Raising the Bar is more of a marriage enrichment program. It's a self-paced 18 video series program where you can go through, you'll be able to watch 18 different vignettes. It ranges anywhere from 2 to 6 minutes, but there's a PDF workbook that goes along with it with each one of the segments. It creates incredible dialogue. There are testimonies on there from people from all walks of life on the site that can speak to the program. But it's about marriage enrichment. We forget about little things that go a long way in our relationships, and we emphasize that, we speak on it, and then we give you an opportunity to really put it into practice. Because when it's all said and done, it's kind of an IIE. There's information, you always get that advice, but you have to find a way to integrate that information into your life and then execute on that. And that's what Raise the Bar is all about. And the bar is actually an acronym. We like acronyms, I guess. And it's belief, actions, results, because your beliefs are going to dictate your actions, and those actions are going to yield your results. So we want to help you raise the bar in your marriage.
Boom. Nice. There it is. Take your marriage seriously. Go ahead and head to, let's stick with marriedintocrazy.com. Head to marriedintocrazy.com, one-stop shop, and make sure you check out Raise the Bar. I want to see if we can get some, maybe a little bit of live coaching right here, right? And this can be for myself and the queen here, or other couples out there who have a business together and they also have a marriage. What would be an action item, an exercise, or something that a bit of advice that you would give a married couple who has a business?
You know what? It's going to be, what are you going to say?
No, you go. Well, okay. So I was going to say, try to keep the marriage, the business, even though, it's like, you don't ever commingle your business funds with your personal funds. Let's try not to commingle the business with the marriage, because I could be mad at you about something or disagree with something that happened in our business meeting. I don't want that to carry over into, our marriage and other
vice
areas,
versa.
or vice versa. So make sure that you, I want to say make sure, but try to, as best as possible, keep the business and keep the marriage the marriage.
And my advice would be to remember the initial calling.
Mhm.
Were you called to be business partners initially, or were you called to be husband and wife?
Mhm. Which is the same thing.
Yeah, but meaning that in doing that, she's talking about don't blur the two. That's true. But remember, you most likely, more times than not, I don't know, sometimes it happens where you were business partners first and then got married. That could be a potential. But think about this. We just had a recent podcast episode where we talked about spending time together, right? It's the 2-2-2 principle, where you actually end up for every 2 months, every 2 weeks, have a date night. Minimum. Some people do it every week, but at the very minimum, every 2 weeks, have a date night.
Mhm.
Every 2 months, get away for a weekend. And then every 2 years,
Take a week.
Take a major something for a week. Get away. It could be within the U.S., outside the U.S. It could be down the street, around the corner, but get away for a week from that house. But you have to invest. We talk about investing in your business. Invest in your marriage. Friendship.
Yeah.
Because your strength in business is going to come from the strength that you've been developing in your marriage.
And make sure you're doing your 2-2-2. You're not talking about the business. That is just your focus for each on each other. That's time to focus on each other.
Well, look,
don't say well.
We're leaving. So we're going to Barbados next week.
Yes.
We're going to have a couple of meetings while we're there, maybe even a podcast, because we need to conduct business so we can have the right.
Okay, for
exactly
7 days, you get one.
Almost 2 hours.
You get 1 hour,
or whatever our tax.
You get 1 hour for
a day.
Consult your tax consultant.
Did you hear that? 1 hour for the whole trip.
I'm taking a lot of advice from this episode. I don't know if I'm gonna take that one. I'm taking a lot of wisdom. I don't know if I'll take that particular one.
Whatever
he will be the first person to jump on anything business related. It could be a trip to around the world, but he's like, but it's business related. Let's go. The minute I'm like, oh, can we take a vacation? He's like, vacation? Oh, why do we need vacation? What is that for?
Days off. I don't like days off. When I feel the momentum, we go going forward. Taking a week to do nothing gives me a little bit of anxiety.
See, and that's how he just said it is the problem right there, right? He said, take a week to do nothing. Yeah. That's how he sees vacation. We've traveled the world, have so many nice videos and pictures of us doing exciting things, of us doing relaxing things to recharge.
And those videos get posted where?
No, but
on our business page.
But you say do nothing. Look, we're gonna have to have a follow-up conversation.
Part 3.
You have to change the vocabulary, the vernacular. It's not do nothing, it's replenishing.
Fill the cup. Fill the cup.
And sometimes the cup is this big.
Look, that's my cup, Devon. You gotta fill it. Look, you wanna see my jug? We gotta fill it. All 50 ounces. We gotta fill it.
Fill it all.
There you go. No comment.
No comment on that one. I'm gonna. We can save the rest of that for part 3. Married into crazy. Go bring y'all back.
I was gonna throw this in there. Everybody's formula is different, right? Everybody's formula is different. So what works for us may not work for you. We just give advice, nudges. You have to take from it what you can and apply it to your life, wherever it may be. Don't let us be the reason why the cup is getting knocked over.
Overland said, "Get him, Sinclair."
It's 3-on-1. Help me. Oh man. But we appreciate y'all coming on. We're gonna have y'all do the last round of advice or updates that you have for folks that you want to share. Me and the Queen gonna do some updates that we have, and then we'll end it with you all giving the last word. Queen, after you drink your amazing water, you feel replenished. Go ahead and hit the folks with some updates.
Well, first, I really wanted to say that I received what you said, Miss Snooks, about my coaching. You don't know how happy it made me to hear that you are losing weight, feeling better. Oh, that just makes me feel so good. So I'm happy to hear that I've had even just a little bit of influence on that.
Yeah.
So thank you. But if you are also trying to see some results, if you are also trying to lose some weight, if you are also trying to feel better, just in general, if you are trying to look so good that you know my phrase, if you're a listener, look so good that you're going to go into the back of the closet and pull out that freakum dress and wear it with confidence, then you need to go to queencoaching.com. And right now we have a free weight loss accountability group available. So we host it through Telegram. And once a week, we come in and we check in with folks. It is 100% free. And you can sign up on the website, queentoqueencoaching.com. And yeah, that's just where we are. We're a bunch of women trying to hold each other accountable to what we said we're going to do. Right. So go check us out. Come mingle with us queens. Let's get these goals.
Yes, ma'am. And on the other side, if you are into family fun board games, if you are into learning about Tulsa's Black Wall Street and teaching your kids the importance of ownership and building financial generational wealth, you can head to playblackwallstreet.com to get yourself Black Wall Street, the board game. We currently have, I say currently because I don't know when you listen to this episode, but right now it's the back to school season. So if you put in the code back to school, TO school, you will get 15% off your order. All right? 15% off anything. We got courses, we got games, we got swag, we got hats, we got shirts. Head to playblackwallstreet.com, get yourself a board game today. So now off to actually, before we get into it, I do want to say a huge thank you to the EOPS San Bernardino Valley College program that had us out for a speaking engagement last week for their welcome back session. Shout out to Charisma Lockhart, who came out and gave her first professional motivational speech with us as well. And a huge thank you to Jair and the Queen for coming out and helping, being at the table in the hot sun, Jair being on the camera, getting all the good footage. So just appreciate the full team that's behind the vision, behind the mission, making Play Black Wall Street the impactful organization that it is. So appreciate y'all. Let's keep it going, team. Wow, hitting it back over to the Married into Crazy, amazing couple and business brand over there. Can you end us with some words of wisdom or any highlights or updates that you would like to give to the folks?
For me, just words of wisdom. Don't forget about your partner. Don't forget about your spouse. In this whole business venture, sometimes we get caught up in, we want the bag, we want to do all these different things, but we forget about the person who we said we're doing it with, or who we're supposed to be doing it, who we're doing it for, or who we're supposed to be doing it with. Don't lose sight of what's most important.
And I think my nugget's the same. If I remember correctly, it's the same thing I said last time. Don't forget about the friendship. You know, there's a fallacy out there that, if love, love is everything. Love is a very splendid thing. But sometimes, love isn't enough to keep it together. And you need that friendship that's going to be able to stand in the gap when love isn't enough, because life happens. And you need to make sure that you're going through life with your friend.
Yeah.
It has to be a close friend. So develop that friendship so it can withstand some of the seasons that love won't, and vice versa. So that's the biggest thing. And please, go to marriedintocrazy.com. We truly appreciate it. There's so much there that you can participate in. There's a lot of different things that are there. So please, like E.T. said, hit that link.
Link. There it is. Erdy, Rana, blessings, health, and love to you all. We appreciate the mentorship, the friendship, and y'all hopping on the podcast for the second time. But much love, and we look forward to part 3 of this conversation where y'all get on me about vacations.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Of course. And of course, to the audience, thank y'all for watching, for listening. If you haven't already, make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making show. My name is Devon Travell, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game.
And I'm Sinclair, aka the Health Nerd.
Make sure y'all secure the marriage. Make sure y'all secure the love. And of course, make sure y'all secure the bag. Peace. Thank you for supporting the M4 show and our mission to increase the wealth of Black families.
If you received any value from this episode, any value at all, any, do us a favor and give us a like and subscribe on YouTube and Apple, Spotify, anything, all of them, all of them, wherever you're listening. Go ahead and like and subscribe.
And after you like and subscribe, make sure you send this episode to at least one family that you really want to see win. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.